The thing that messes us all up so often are underlying intentions. And personality profiles and a variety of them kind of help us put language around our tendencies and language around what might be unintended intentions, and really not just prevents conflict, but to me, it's being able to use personality profile. My favorite one to use just at the surface is DISC, because
Sure.
to me, it's so easy.
Yep.
It's so easy. It's not got a lot of fancy words that I can't remember the definitions of, right?
Yep.
I could just keep it at the surface and meet people where they are by using that knowledge to understand who they might be.
Right. Absolutely. And I think personally, I think of it just as a language, because we each have our own language. And, how long would your listener today sit on this show with us if I was speaking in a language that they didn't understand?
Hi, I'm Erin Marcus, former corporate executive turned entrepreneur and founder and CEO of Conquer Your Business. Welcome to the Ready Yet podcast. We're excited to bring you more than 100 episodes of interviews and insights designed to help entrepreneurs get the financial and emotional freedom they need in order to build a business and a life they're proud of. All right. Hello, and welcome to this episode. I'm very excited to have Dave Molenda here with me because he talks about, amongst other things, two of my favorite topics, sales and personality profiles. And we can get into how I became a personality profile junkie a little bit. But before we do that, why don't you tell everybody a little bit more officially who you are and what you do?
Well, I tell you, I haven't met a personality junkie before, so I'm really honored to be here today. Holy cow. This is awesome. No, thank you so much for letting me hang out on your show, Erin. I'm honored. So I'm a business coach in the Midwest, and we happen to use assessments a lot because of the importance of them. And realistically, we can get into it, but I think a lot of people struggle to really understand who they are. Mm-hmm. And I think assessments just do a great job of that. Excuse me. I was talking to somebody just today, and I'm like, so what motivates you? And they get this blank stare on their face, right? And so we help people with that, and assessments are such a powerful tool and a way to do that. So and I have my own podcast as well, and wrote a #1 Amazon best-selling book and speak around the country. So I'm honored to be hanging out with you today.
Awesome. Yeah, I absolutely agree with you on what a tool they are, right?
In a good way, because I've heard of things. In a good way,
not a tool. Right? Yes. Not that one.
Right? Okay, good, because I've heard that it is not so good. So
no, but the way to understand yourself, the thing that messes us all up so often are underlying intentions. And personality profiles and a variety of them kind of help us put language around our tendencies and language around what might be unintended intentions, and really not just prevents conflict, but to me, it's being able to use personality profile. My favorite one to use just at the surface is DISC, because to me, it's so easy. It's so easy. It's not got a lot of fancy words that I can't remember the definitions of, right? I could just keep it at the surface and meet people where they are by using that knowledge to understand who they might be.
Right. Absolutely. And I think personally, I think of it just as a language, because we each have our own language. And, how long would your listener today sit on this show with us if I was speaking in a language that they didn't understand?
Absolutely.
And that's how it is personality wise, whether fast or slow, might be the pace. It might be the context about how deep do I go versus, quality. There's just so many different things, facts. I mean, there's so much there. So I just think at the end of the day, it's really being more self-aware about the person that you're communicating with. And I think that's what's really powerful about it, rather than me having a bunch of info and I got to techno puke it to you, right? And I don't care how you receive it.
Yes.
That's really not very healthy in
Not
today's
helpful.
communication.
No.
So yeah. So
however,
excited.
I learned about personality profiles in not quite I won't call it altruistic, but it wasn't with such intention of lifting everybody up. My first experience with personality profiles was as a junior in college, so in the 80s. The
Come
world was
on,
not
you
as
were in
young.
the 20 teens. Don't do
Yeah,
that.
of course.
Come on.
Totally. What was I thinking? So, not quite the woke atmosphere we're in somewhat,
Yeah,
right? I mean,
right.
it was
Yep.
80. But so my major is in mass communications journalism, and my minor is in criminal justice because I was working as a reporter even at 19 and 20 years old, and I was covering government and murder trials, and that was criminal justice, right? So I'm thinking, great, here we go. So it's a junior in college, I took a criminal psychology class. It was taught by a gentleman, amazing. He was so much fun. But at one point in his career, he was the psychologist, psychiatrist, whatever is the right term, at Sing Sing. And his job was to administer personality profiles to inmates.
Yes.
So when they put them together in pods, they could lessen the likelihood of violence.
Sure.
So he gave us all those tests. Right? And
Nice.
what I learned in that class was we're all basically one Scantron answer away from being a sociopath, right?
Sure. Yep.
That the line is a lot more narrow than what any of us would want to believe that it is.
Sure.
And so that was my first introduction to personality profiles. And then later, much later, 20 years later, when I got my MBA, one of my focuses was executive leadership. And that was when I was reintroduced to personality profiles more as a tool.
Sure.
Not just as hey, you guys are lucky you're not in isolation,
right? Yeah,
type
exactly.
of experience.
Some of them think they are in isolation, living in that cubicle all day, right? So
yeah, very true. Very true. So what got you started on this, putting it together this way? There's so many ways to go into business coaching. What got you started?
Absolutely. Yeah. 2004 was my first assessment exposure, and somebody was doing an off company was working with us and building our team, and we took the assessment, and it was like mind blowing how accurate it was, And I'm like, no, there's no way that this could be this accurate from answering these couple of questions or 20 or whatever it was. So, I kind of put it away. I used it a little bit, but put it away until I sold that business and then started my coaching business in 2012. And at that point, I was like, I really love building teams. And a lot of people don't really, like I said before, they don't know themselves that well. And when I ask a question to somebody, can you do, I rarely hear people say they can't do it. Can you do this? Can you do that? And everybody can magically do everything, whether it's in an interview or whatever, right? And so then I got to a point where I'm like, it's not that I don't believe people, it's that I get that we're trying to be all things to all people. And that's kind of where the whole sales piece came up, because, the question is like, in an interview, not that you ask it this way, but you're trying to find out, can you sell ice to Eskimos? And everyone's like, oh my gosh, I can sell ice to Eskimos, no problem, right? And so you hire them, and then they jump into their position, and then 3 months later, you look and you're like, did you have an identical twin that was maybe interviewing? Because you cannot sell a hot dog to a starving man, and you told me you could sell ice to Eskimos. So at the end of the day, now we have assessments that, based on how they answer the question, will tell how well they are going to be able to prospect, how well they're going to be able to close a sale, how well they're going to do certain things within that process. Because again, I can't leave it up to chance anymore, because who's going to say in a job interview for sales, I suck at
Right.
sales.
Those people don't even
Erin,
apply
there's no
for
way
that
I can sell,
Right.
I mean,
Those people don't apply for that job if they're showing up.
exactly,
Right.
exactly.
So I
So,
love that. I love that idea because you're exactly right. Nobody's going to walk in the door saying they can't do something. We've been taught we have to be able to do it. That's why we applied for the job.
right.
What are and the other thing what I find with sales in particular,
Yeah,
more than any other role in a company, your personality and your stories will mess you up.
right.
Will just mess you up. So what are some of your favorite tools to determine who makes a good salesperson? Or is there a certain profile that, here's the thing, we can all learn things,
Right.
but
Absolutely.
who your optimal profiles or your advantageous?
Yeah, absolutely. So for the ones that we assess, we can, for our assessments that we use from TTI, we end up with being able to tell how competitive somebody is, how urgent they are. So those are two really important words that we use. And what I like to, because different sales are different, right? I mean, standing at the mall trying to sell somebody walking down the mall, a gutter replacement is, different than, potentially a longer 6-month or year-long sale. So I have to put a caveat on that each sale has a little bit different of a outcome. But I think the important part is when you're looking at that position, I always ask the question is if the job could talk, what would it say that it needed? And so we kind of look at it from that perspective. And if competitive and urgency usually are two that rise up towards the top
Yes.
here pretty quick, again, who's going to say that they're not competitive? And I always ask the question, like when you play cards, like when my wife and I play cards, I tell you what, I'm there for one reason, and that's to win, right? And she's
Right,
there
just
for
own
the time to
it.
hang out. She doesn't care if she wins. I'm like, what kind of crap is this? If you don't want to win, don't go to the bathroom because you may not come back to the same hand that you left because I may cheat here. But I mean, that competitiveness is really, really important in a sales role. And so you want that to be there. I love the urgency because we want to, people love to stall in sales, and we as the sales professional need to kind of find some ways to increase that urgency. So those are just two of the top that come to my mind. So I'm curious if you have that same thought on your end.
I think for me, interestingly enough, if I go back to, because my emphasis on my personality profile experience is in communication.
Sure.
How do they communicate? And then how do you communicate with people in the different categories? And one of the things I have found is a chameleon is often a better salesperson than somebody who's too far into one particular category. So using myself as an example, in the DISC profile, I come out extremely high goal driven, extremely high interpersonal.
Sure.
I can pull off being a steady, conscientious person. But in terms of rule follower,
Right.
I'm almost like if you could test negative,
Yeah.
right? I think I
Yep.
only got a couple points because they won't let you come out negative.
Right. Yep.
So for me,
They can't put a 0 down, so they put a 2 down for you, Aaron, just so you know that's how that
exactly.
works. So yeah.
So for me, I have to very intentionally, when I have somebody who falls into a conscientious rule follower, massively specific data driven, I have to pay attention, slow my roll, get off my judgment, because it's easy to think a different personality is wrong, which it's not, it's just different. Right. And so a chameleon, somebody who measures moderately amongst the different profiles, will often have an easier time because they're not so tied into any particular trait.
No, that's a great point. And I think, like, for me, the hardest person in the world to sell to is an engineer. No offense to anyone you're listening to today. I
Exactly.
love you. You're awesome. I cannot sell a hot dog to you. I can't even give you a hot dog
Right.
because,
Because I don't want to have to deal with the process of it.
right. I mean,
Right.
it's like 6 months, a year. It's this,
Yes.
I mean, and it's no fun. I mean, I don't know, the high I people are people, and not that
Right.
engineers aren't people. They tend to be more fact brained. And it's really hard for us, me specifically, I'll say, it's hard for me to transition into that piece,
Yes.
so
Exactly.
that's where it's really hard. And so for your listeners, if I think it's funny because no research here at all, but from my experience, the average salesperson sells and closes about 25% of their
Yeah.
jobs, roughly.
Yeah.
And for super simple math, if there's 4 different personalities and each one roughly has 25% in their quadrant, we do a great job of selling to the person that's like us. We
Absolutely.
struggle selling to the other people that are not like us. And in today's world, we blame them when we don't get a sale, right? I mean, no one takes any. I don't remember the last president that took any responsibility for
For
anything, right?
anything. For
Oh my gosh, it's always
right.
somebody else, right? So
Always somebody. I think to me that is also, as an entrepreneur, my people always ask me, how did you grow so fast? How do you do as much as you do? And bottom line, taking personal responsibility and seeing it as the most empowering tool you could ever embrace
right.
is what has helped me immensely. And it goes against everything you see out in the world right now.
Yep.
So it's a harder and harder thing to do.
It is. But it's really important. I mean, especially in that spot, knowing yourself, who do you struggle? Like I struggle selling to X. I struggle communicating with this
And it's
person,
not a big deal. That's
right?
the other piece. I think
Yeah.
we feel like you said, no one's going to walk in and say they can't do it. We all feel like we're supposed to be perfect and wonderful at everything. And so we don't admit what we can't do. The story I tell about that is I was dating a guy, great guy, very nice guy. And we used to go to the gym all the time. And he was a statistician. And so I don't even know how this happened because he's just really nice guy.
I don't even know how to spell that, so I
I
don't
don't
even know
even
what
know
it is.
how
So
this started, but
yeah,
and with my background in powerlifting and bodybuilding, when you go to the gym to really do a good workout, you often do the sets to failure. And he would ask me ahead of time, how many of these are we doing? How many of these are we doing? How many of these are we doing? And I could never answer. I don't know.
sure.
If I
Yeah,
ate more today, we'll do more. If I'm tired
yeah,
today, we'll do less. Like, I don't know the answer to that. We've came here to exercise, not to count things.
right.
And it made him crazy. Like, he had a very hard time going into something not knowing exactly what the parameters were.
Right. Yep.
And
No,
it's,
makes total sense.
and then I'll give you one for my current boyfriend that I've been with for almost 10 years now. I still remember we were going through the bank drive-through, and it was when the ATM machines first started wanting you to deposit that way as well. Like, you
Okay.
used to just get money out of an ATM, and
Sure.
then somewhere around 8 years ago, they wanted you to deposit your money that way. And so here's me. I don't know where we were on our way to. I was trying to make my deposit in the ATM. I was driving, and the damn thing didn't work. Like, it didn't work. I tried, it
Sure.
didn't work. I tried 2 times, which is like amazing. And
Yeah.
it didn't
Right.
work. And
Once more than normal.
I'm throwing this big fit. I'm like, are you kidding me? They want me to do this. I had to wait in line, and now the thing doesn't work. And he is totally like high S.
Okay.
So steady, right? So
Patient.
he's
Yeah.
totally like, chill out. We'll go
Yeah.
in the bank, we'll say hi, we'll get a cup of coffee. And I'm going,
Yeah.
it's a bank. I
Yeah.
didn't come here for coffee and to talk to
Yep.
people, right?
This ain't Starbucks, buddy. Yeah. No kidding.
Right.
Wow. Well, and that's funny. I mean, but that's the cool part about DISC, I think, Erin, is that it transcends work because it
Yes.
does go into our daily life. Everybody that we live with, everybody that we communicate with comes in with a certain personality type. And, the more that we understand that piece, the more successful we're going to navigate those personal relationships as well as business. And I think, again, that's what I think is so awesome about, having this tool to be able to use.
I hope you're enjoying this episode of the Ready Yet podcast, brought to you by Conquer Your Business. With decades of experience, Conquer Your Business creates business and branding strategies that build multiple 6- and 7-figure businesses. And we don't just show you what to do. We have an entire team of people available to help you do it, strategy and implementation. You can learn more and reach out to us by visiting conqueryourbusiness.com.
So,
what are some of your other favorite tools, like other profiles? I don't know an Enneagram. I don't know that one.
no, I mean, the other one that I think is really helpful, the other two that are we use, and specifically EQ is really helpful, emotional intelligence.
Yes.
Because again, you can start off this journey with somebody, and if they don't have high self-awareness, they have a lot of blind spots. They really don't understand what's going on, and they lose interest a lot of times pretty quick because this doesn't look like something I'm interested in. You know, we all struggle on our drive in. If you drive to work in the morning, you know, if you have to jump on the freeway and it's busy, low emotionally intelligent people will not let you on the freeway. You know, they feel that extra 20 feet that you're supposed to do every other car doesn't apply to them. So if you're listening today, great job.
Do you see the other drivers as competitors? That's a certain
Oh my gosh, right? Yeah. It's like, I got to get that spot. I mean, I'm like, man, I guess you need it, because I'm thinking someone in your car is dying, or you know, there's money to win if you're the millionth car at this spot. I'm trying to figure this out, but it just doesn't work.
My sarcastic my sarcastic response, and I actually said this to a very large man, and then his girlfriend sided with me. He pulled into a Walgreens parking lot in a way that not only cut me off and took the parking spot I was in line for, but then created a situation that like 4 other people had to wait for him to figure out what he was doing, where if he would have just gone second, it would have been boom, 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 easy peasy. And he got out and gave me a big dirty look. And I said, hey, if this is the only thing you've got going for you in your life, I can't be the person to take that from you.
Yep.
And he got so mad at me.
Nice.
I'm 5 feet tall, by the way. So when I say things like it's,
but you're a power lifter, so I don't know, you know, but
his girlfriend sided with me. So it's his girlfriend in the passenger seat sided with me. So
well, it's just fun to watch. It's everywhere, you know, and like if you're ever at an elevator, it's pretty evident, you know, what goes on there, because the high D person is that guy or girl that keeps pushing the button thinking that the thing's going to come quicker. You know, so you have that person, and then the I person gets in the elevator once it shows up, and they see someone in the elevator and they just totally lose where they're at. They don't know what floor, they never pushed a button because they're so engaged in that conversation. That personality or that person that they're communicating with is so good, right? And the S person's very accommodating, so they're going to hold the door and let everybody else in. And, oh, that's okay, I'll wait for the next one, you know. So you have that. And then the C person, I always think is the funny one, because they're holding the door, but they're holding it for a different reason. They're looking for that little square placard on the wall to see
how many people,
right? And so they're looking, and he's counting or she's counting. And if it's like close, now it's like, hey, how much do you weigh? You know, and now we're getting into this whole thing. And in the meantime, the D person's pushing the close button and somebody's got their hand there. So those are the daily fights and conflicts that we have in our office, in our society. And I think that's where, if we're able to be more self-aware of those pieces, we're going to really just get along that much better. And I think a lot of our national problems would go away if we could, you know, just get along with each other a little bit better.
And one of the things I was talking about, so this past weekend, while we're recording this past weekend happened to be the in-person planning intensive for my group program that I run. And we were talking about using social media and the balance of getting your messages out there and getting to your audience, but not losing yourself in social media. And one of the things that I finally came up with some words after reading a bunch of stuff about it is The unfortunate default emotion right now is outrage.
Wow. Yep.
And as soon as you default to outrage, you close off empathy and understanding. And when most people calmly talk to other most people, they agree on some things, they disagree on other things, but they're people.
Right.
And yet we're being told and taught and exhibited to that outrage over everything, regardless, it doesn't matter what you believe, it's on every side, right?
Right.
Outrage is the only appropriate response to everything. There's no triage, right? That's part of the problem. Not only are all these people exhibiting outrage, but they're exhibiting, code red outrage over everything unilaterally, and it removes empathy. And what you and I are talking about with personality profiles, the way that you sound like you use them, the way that I use them, is to learn and understand myself, and then to interpret other people so that I can meet them where they are.
Yep, absolutely.
Which means it's not all about me.
Right.
Which is the opposite of outrage.
Right.
And that's it's unfortunate.
Well, it's the same old country song. I'll start walking your way, you start walking mine, we meet in the middle. That's how communication in my thought, my thinking, that's how it should be. But there's so often that we're just allowing people to live where they are, and we have to do that extra traveling. I'm not changing. Hey, if you don't like it, go somewhere else, I mean, that's kind of the old regime, I think, that's slowly dying. But
because it's not.
I mean, you talk about words like that, outrage, and there's words that each personality style actually have a negative response to.
Very much so.
And I think that's what's really important.
Like rules, for example.
Yep. There you go.
Or how the way this should, oh my God, the one that'll set me off, like not in a mean way, but I will just ignore you from then on. Well, that's the way it's always been done.
Yep.
As soon as, right or wrong, I'm not saying I'm right to be this way.
Absolutely.
As soon as I hear that come out of somebody's mouth, it's like their opinions are over, which is not a fair response for me, from me, but it is what happens.
Well, think about how many boardrooms across the world in the last 100 years, had those words. That's just the way we do it around here. Kmart, Sears, JCPenney's, Kodak, right? Radio Shack, Blockbuster, all these companies.
How's that working for you?
Exactly. Those are the worst words that I hear as a business coach is, well, it's just how we do it around here. And I'm like, oh no, please, you didn't just say that. Hopefully that's how we do it around here, but we're open to
we're trying it. Yes.
That's different than that's how we do it around here. That's how grandpa did it around here, Erin. That's how I'm doing it. That's how my dad, that's how my kids, that's a pretty quick time for me. There's not much left at that point for me, really, and
there's also, I think, a personality trait that instantly says no. Yep. And then has to work their way there.
Yep. Yeah, they're very skeptical. There's
skeptical, a lot of right? Their brain, and that just, as soon as you say, I know, I already tried that, any of that, you're just, and it doesn't mean that the suggestion is right and they're wrong, but you shut yourself down to any possibility.
Right.
To any possibility.
I mean, the words for me, it's weird. So, when a word, like for you, when you say rules, when that word shows up, there's a chemical that releases in your brain that is actually fighting you with that's a fight in your brain. Now, for me, the word is process. So when somebody uses that word, I think of spreadsheets, I think of 42 different points to this thing, right? I'm like, oh,
right. Well,
goes right. So what I've been trying to do is, what's the word that I can use in place of that, right? So the word that I came up with was path. PATH, just a path, because now my brain goes to, we have a path in our woods and it's peaceful. And, that's where I go. And so when people know me, they know to use the word path rather than process. And again, if we can start getting these words down with our customers and our clients, amazing, because now we're talking their language rather than talking our language. So,
and giving them the words, right? Giving them the words. So for me, one of the words that I just am not happy with currently is the word goals.
Okay.
I'm not happy with the word goals because, number one, by definition, a goal is hard to achieve. And number two, and for me, in my definition, and number two, a goal is an anomaly, not a new way of being.
Okay.
And so when I'm looking at my business and I'm trying to reach new levels in my business, I don't want to call them goals, because
so what do you call them?
This is hysterical. So my new thing to do as I journal every day, it changes every day. I call them things I'm making happen.
Okay.
I call them crap that's getting done.
Okay.
I call them, yes, more of this, please. Like I'm whatever comes to mind that morning, to put them in the current instead of the future, to make them inevitable instead of hard. On my spreadsheet of quarterly initiatives, I call them objectives and focus points.
Okay.
What am I focusing on?
Sure.
And then what are the initiatives that are going to make that reality?
Yep.
But I think the background in powerlifting and bodybuilding, we had goals.
Sure. Yeah.
And those goals were freaking hard, right?
Yeah.
And it wasn't my regular workouts. I might work out for 4 months with the intention of hitting that goal on competition day. And the second I walked off the platform, I didn't want to have to try that again for months. So why would I make that my objective?
Sure. Interesting.
And I think, like, for me as a business coach, as a consultant and working with success, the more I can help people discover the non-helpful definitions they're holding, the faster they can make a breakthrough.
Yeah. Yep. But we got to use the words that work for them. That's the hard part, right? So that's where it's like, man, okay, what if goals work for somebody?
That's fantastic. That's
cool
that's
with
perfect.
That? Okay.
Cool.
Cool.
Of course, because that's not my morning routine. It's theirs. Right.
Yeah,
absolutely. Exactly. If it works for them, have at it.
Cool.
Have at it.
That's the hard part, is if we don't allow that flexibility, is this is the way it has to be. So for anyone listening that wants to get Erin all messed up, just use the word rules and goals. That's awesome. Just send her an email, ask her.
Tell me, I don't want to do any of this because this is the way it's always been done.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Oh my gosh.
The response will be short and sweet.
Yeah,
Good luck with that.
Yeah, I'm sure that's all you'll say. There won't be any naughty words in there.
The rest is just in my head.
Yeah, exactly.
I am a high I. I laugh. I'm a very, very high goal-driven D. I'm a very, very high interpersonal I. And under stress, the I goes away. It's just gone.
Exactly right. Forget it. Get one or done or the other.
Out of here. Just get it done.
Absolutely. Yep.
So if someone wants to continue this conversation with you, and I so recommend it, what is the best way to reach out to you?
Yeah, so positivepolarity.com is our website, and that's by far the best place to go. So we're in the process of redoing that. So we're having a ball doing it, but definitely you can connect with me there or on LinkedIn. Not a lot of Dave Molendas on LinkedIn, so that's awesome. But be happy to help. And we always for a gift for your anybody listening, if they want a free assessment, we normally charge like a couple $100 for them, but Erin's, I heard that her audience is pretty awesome. So being 150 some episodes in, she's awesome. So if there's anybody on here that does want to take that, we'll put a link in the show notes that you free assessment. It's for your for DISC and for your EQ, your emotional intelligence. So it's 60 pages, Erin. So it's like way more than anyone would
way
ever
more
want
than
to
you
know.
wanted to know about yourself.
Right.
I did my strength finders recently and it came back with like 53 pages of everything you suck at, right?
Yeah.
It's so great.
The high D'll never even finish the assessment, so we won't have to worry about that.
I did finish. I finished things. I don't know where that came from. So the couple C points I have are for accounting coming out of a public financial services business. So my books are in order, not because I do them, but they're in order.
Yuck, that's horrible.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's one place I was never allowed, is the accounting department. So.
We will make sure that link is in the show notes.
Perfect.
Positive polarity. I love it. I love our conversation. We could go on for this for days. To me, it's an amazing tool, but it's also a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
Right? You gotta not take yourself so seriously.
Right. Yep. A hammer pounds nails. This does more than pounds nails. So definitely, if you haven't taken one, I strongly encourage you to take one. We're going to give you one for free. So it's super awesome. And thank you again so much for all you're doing with your show. And like we were talking off air, I'm representing the men today because there's a lot more women guests on there. So.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for sharing, for your time, for your energy, for your awesomeness. And I'm looking forward to your show as well.
Absolutely. Can't wait.